Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be starting here just a few minutes for the webinar on adhesives for wearable devices and unique challenges of skin attachment. I'll give everyone just another 30 seconds or so to get logged in. So if you'll just bear with me very briefly, we'll get started shortly. It's always good to start these things with a long, awkward pause. Okay, I think everyone's had a moment now. So again, thank you, welcome. Appreciate you joining us today. My name is Hannah Huber. I am a product manager for Adhesives Research based in Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. And I'll be joined shortly by my colleague Fiona O'Brien, who is in our sister manufacturing facility in Limerick. We'll get started here with just a few housekeeping items, a very short introduction from me, and then we'll get going with our presentation, followed by question and answers afterwards. Couple housekeeping items for you. Today, as participants, you'll be in listen and view mode only and will not be able to activate your webcam or microphone. So please, for the question and answer session, will be held at the end of the presentation. Please submit your questions through the Q&A feature. Participants are allowed to send anonymous questions and allowed to view all questions, but cannot upvote. Any unanswered questions will be followed up with shortly after the presentation. And our webinar recording can also be accessed on demand post-webinar should you have colleagues that were not able to join today. And lastly, please use the raise the hand feature if you need any special assistance. We'll be able to take care of that for you. So before we get started, just a couple brief comments for you. I think you'll see from our presentation today that we really do understand the unique challenges you face when designing wearable devices. Skin is the most dynamic and challenging substrate to bond to. So the specifics of your device, placement on the body, and the total device construction are critical factors that can impact performance. Our participation in our customers' development extends beyond the skin adhesive, however, as other layers of your device are equally critical. And we understand how to help you troubleshoot, design, or performance challenges. So we understand the correlation between adhesive performance and device accuracy. And we also understand skin. Most importantly, we understand what's at stake, which is the health and safety of your patients and customers. So there are really two critical questions that I wanted to address before we get started. And one is, why do we do this? Why do we invest so much of our resources into innovation for skin adhesive design? And the answer is impact. You're giving us a chance to play a critical role in developing devices that improve people's lives. It's pretty powerful. It's a privilege to be a part of the solutions that help people live better, longer, healthier lives. So whether it's a device that monitors glucose, delivers insulin, or monitors heart rate, you're building products that make a difference, and we take our role as your partner very seriously. Second question I wanted to address was, how do we deliver safe technologies to your patients and customers? And the answer is through clean adhesives. So what does that mean? Fiona is going to share a lot of detail today about biocompatibility, which I know is a critical requirement for many of these products, but there's more to it than just passing a standard test. In addition to careful study and selection of non-sensitizing materials, we have developed processes that significantly reduce residual monomers, or the leave behinds that can cause skin irritation, discomfort, or even allergic reaction. These methods are applied to skin adhesive development as well as device bonding adhesives to minimize risk and maximize patient comfort. Lastly, a point I'll share is that we really do take this work very personally throughout our campus. If you've ever been able to visit us, or hopefully if you're able to visit us again in the future, you'll see numbers of individuals wearing multiple devices at a time. And members of our innovation team, operations, sales, and quality teams, administrators, and executives alike all routinely participate in AR's internal wear studies. So whether we're exploring a 30-day long-term solution in a lengthy study, or evaluating new substrates to improve breathability for a custom solution. We're taking your skin challenges personally, applying them to our own skin, studying the effects, capturing them in real time, and constantly improving. My hope is you will take away something today that you can immediately apply to one of your projects. We hope that you will feel comfortable reaching out to us with questions following this. We're eager to take on your challenges and look forward to working with you. I'll turn it over here to Fiona, and following her presentation again, we will address your questions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fiona O'Brien. I am a Senior Product Development Chemist at Adhesive Research. I am delighted to be here today to present on the unique challenges of skin attachment. First, I'll talk about wearable device information, followed by discussing the factors that can influence wear performance. Then I'll provide some information on skin adhesive requirements, followed by an overview of some platform technologies that Adhesive Research have developed to meet the requirements of the wearable device market. Then there will be a summary of our value proposition, followed by an overview on our other healthcare technology offerings. According to verified market research, the global wearable skin patch market was valued at just over $6 billion in 2019, as predicted to grow at a compound annual rate of 88.54% to a value of over $726 billion by 2027. The drivers include an increasing prevalence of lifestyle diseases, the rising number of geriatric populations, cost-effective in-home healthcare monitoring, greater ease of use and comfort at home, and increasing development funds and tax benefits for startups and venture capitalists. The restraining factors then include data security issues, the relatively high cost of wearable devices, long product approval cycles, and non-skin wireless devices, including smartphones, watches, bands, and eyewear. There are a number of healthcare and medical applications that have a requirement for our wearable skin patches. These include diabetes management applications such as continuous glucose monitoring and insulin delivery devices, cardiovascular applications such as heart rate and ECG monitoring, and for defibrillators and other diagnostic devices. In the pharmaceutical sector for drug delivery, and for other patient monitoring such as fever monitoring. There are also a number of consumer, fitness, sports, wellness, and cosmetic applications, such as sports and analytics, cosmetics, and other tracking devices. With such a vast array of wearable devices currently on the market, combined with the predicted growth, it is critical to understand how device design affects wear performance. Each device and its intended application poses unique challenges for device attachment. Device shape, height, weight, and composition can all influence wear performance. Larger shaped devices with a higher profile and an increased weight pose a more difficult challenge and may be best suited to larger areas on the body with less movement, such as the lower abdomen. Wearable devices are typically composed of low surface energy materials. Selecting an appropriate adhesive to suit the device composition is essential for achieving optimum performance. Skin properties can greatly influence wear performance. As skin is such a variable substrate, it is critical to understand the target market for which the device is intended. Age, gender, race, diet, and environment can all have an influence on wear performance. Older skin is thinner with a thinner epidermis layer, what makes it more fragile. It also has less collagen fibers, resulting in a loss of elasticity, contributing to more wrinkles. As we age, we can also experience a loss of oil and sweat glands, which can contribute to drier skin. All of these factors result in the requirement for a more gentle formulation for older skin. In terms of the surface energy then, clean, dry skin can have a surface energy of 27 dynes per centimetre, but on the forehead it can be up to 52 dynes per centimetre. Perspiration can also vary by location, individual, and activity level, ranging from 100 to 8,000 millilitres per day. The location on the body can also influence wear performance. Selecting an area where there is less movement can dramatically influence wear performance. Let me demonstrate by outlining a study that we completed here at Adhesive Research. In this study, which contained 6 different devices, participants were requested to apply the patches to the abdomen area. They were applied in such a way that they were rotated, in such a way that, for example, participant 1 applied sample number 1 to location 1, and participant 2 applied sample number 1 to location 2, and so on and so forth. As illustrated in the following image, outlining the anatomy of the body, we can see that the upper abdomen is subject to more movement. So let's see then how that compares to the ones on the lower abdomen area. As can be viewed in this box plot, the samples that were worn in the positions located on the upper abdomen area, that is, locations 1 and 6, performed less favorably. They had a much broader range of wear performance, and a similar performance was observed for both. Whereas the samples in the lower abdomen area contained a much narrower spread of data and performed much more favorably. Another contributing factor here was the fact that there were so many different devices worn, increasing the probability that they'd knock against each other and contributing to fall-offs. The substrate type can also influence wear performance. Here we see the results of a wear study performed with 4 different substrates: polyurethane, polyester, polypropylene, and polyethylene. The time worn is illustrated in the box plot. As can be observed, the samples with the polyurethane and polyester samples performed most favorably, in contrast to the polyethylene and the polypropylene samples. In contrast, when we look at the pain scale and removal ratings, we can see that the PU and the polyester samples performed less favorably than the polypropylene and the polyethylene samples. This information can be used to select the best substrate for the application. So for instance, if a wear time of 14 days was the most critical attribute, then a polyurethane or polyester substrate would be the most preferred candidate. But for instance, where you may have geriatric or pediatric skin, then the polyethylene substrate may be the best choice. That is why it is so critical to understand where the device is going to be worn and what target market. Adhesive selection for skin attachment is critical to assure proper therapeutic dose delivery and device function. Achieving the correct properties is a balancing act. Trying to increase the values of one property will likely have a knock-on effect on the other properties. It is critical to obtain a good design input to determine the critical properties so that the best option may be selected. One of the most critical parameters that need to be taken into consideration when developing a skin-friendly adhesive for device attachment is bond strength. The following graph illustrates the difference in bond strength that may be required from one application to the next. For example, a peel adhesion of 1 newtons per 25 millimeters may be required for pediatric or geriatric applications with a wear time of up to 24 hours. This increases to 5 newtons for a longer term wear up to 7 days, and can be up to 30 newtons when you apply a weight, and then up to even 40 newtons when you've got for weight-bearing adhesive applications. The pictures here illustrate the failure modes that can be observed if the adequate adhesion is not achieved. So if we look at the patch that's on the top left, we can see that it is well bonded to the skin, indicating that adequate bond strength is achieved. If we look at the patch on the top right, we can see some evidence of tunneling, indicating that the bond strength may be a little bit too low. If we look in the patch on the bottom, we can see that there is edge lifting all around the edge and the perimeters. This is an indication that the bond strength is not adequate. Biocompatibility is testing a device to determine the potential toxicity resulting from bodily contact with a material or medical device. The testing needs to be completed according to ISO 10993 standards. The tests that are typically completed are cytotoxicity, skin irritation, and skin sensitization. Cytotoxicity is completed in vitro. So it's completed on cells, and you're looking for effects on cells, such as cell lysis, inhibition of cell growth, and colony formation. For skin irritation, then that's completed in vivo, in direct contact with the body, and you're looking for irritation or an immediate response. For the skin sensitization, that's also conducted in vivo on the body, but you're looking at more a delayed or allergic response. from the repeated or prolonged exposure. It is characterized by the fact that the reaction is delayed, independent of dose, and not localized. The MVTR of the tape has to be high so that any vapor produced by the skin can pass through. Excess moisture on the skin surface will compromise the bond and may lead to edge lifting or patch fall-offs. Skin with excess moisture is also more prone to infection and maceration, such as illustrated in the following diagram. The MVTR rate increases with increased wear time. The graph shows how the MVTR can be modified by modifying the coat weight. So here we see, for example, when the coat weight was 68 GSM, we achieved an MVTR level of 400 grams per meter squared per day. When this coat weight was reduced to 38 GSM, the MVTR rate increased to 1,000 grams per meter squared per day. Skin adhesives for device attachments also need to be able to retain adhesive properties after sterilization. Gamma sterilization, ethylene oxide sterilization, and E-beam sterilization are typical sterilization techniques used. Sterilization can generate free radicals, which can lead to polymer cross-linking. This can alter the adhesive properties. The adhesive formulations can be modified in such a way as to withstand the effects of the sterilization techniques. Here we see illustrated in this graph an example of how the adhesive maintained its peel adhesion post-exposure to gamma sterilization at a dose of 25 kilograms. The shear strength of adhesive then is the maximum shear stress in the adhesive prior to failure under torsional load. High shear strength is required to support device weight with minimal movement or creep. The shear strength of the adhesive can be evaluated by applying a load of a defined weight, often 500 grams, to an adhesive tape which is bonded to a panel. The time it takes for the bond to foil is an indication of your shear strength. This graph shows how the shear strength of a weight-bearing adhesive compared to that of a standard acrylic. As can be observed, it is greater than 10 times higher. Pain on removal is another critical performance parameter, particularly for pediatric or geriatric applications, or in instances where reapplication is required. This is assessed by completing wear studies, where participants are requested to provide a pain scale and rating removal ranging from 0 for no pain to 4 to the worst possible pain. Here we see on this graph the example we illustrated in an earlier slide, where the polyurethane and the polyester samples provided the higher ratings and the PE samples provided the most performable performance. Skin condition on removal is also a critical parameter. Again, here participants are requested to provide a rating for skin condition on removal, ranging from 0 to no visible response, to 4 to bright fiery response with edema present. Again, here we can see that the polyethylene and the polypropylene substrates performed the most favorably. So again, we touched on this earlier, conformability is critical. We could see here that if you selected a substrate that had a too high a profile, it could basically lead to the patches being knocked off. In contrast then, when you look at a substrate that may be very light or flimsy, constructions need to be rigid enough not to fold over onto itself, but flexible enough to be conformable. I will go through some key features and attributes of some of the platform technologies that adhesive research have developed to meet the requirements of the wearable device market. We will see how the requirements we discussed earlier fit into the different categories. First, let's look at what layers are typically required for bonding a wearable device to the skin. Typically, a double-sided tape is used where you have a skin-friendly adhesive on one side of a specially selected substrate and a device bonding adhesive on the other side. Both sides are protected with release liners, which can be removed. So let's look at our low-surface energy adhesives that are typically required for bonding components in medical devices. So you have different options possible. You've got acrylic, rubber, silicone, and hybrid chemistries. You can achieve a permanent or removable bond depending on the application requirements. They can be provided as a transfer film, so that's just on its own with 2 release liners, or in combination with a skin adhesive as a double-sided tape. The selected formulation needs to contain clean, non-cytotoxic chemistries. They're ideal for patch pumps, infusion pumps, and general device bonding. weight-bearing adhesives reliably and comfortably bond a weighted device for treatment or monitoring. Tailoring adhesive properties for short or long-term wear is possible. These provide good shear resistance for less movement. They offer up to 10 times that of a standard acrylic adhesive to support device state with minimal movement or creep. They can be removed without compromising skin integrity. They can withstand typical sterilization techniques such as ethylene oxide sterilization, gamma sterilization, and e-beam sterilization. They are biocompatible for ISO 10993. They're non-cytotoxic, are non-irritating, and non-sensitizing. So AR skin-friendly platforms address unique challenges of skin attachment. They offer tailorable wear duration, adhesion to multiple locations of the body, minimal pain upon adhesive removal. They're suitable for sterilization, and they offer good cost control with tape configurations to reduce material costs. The value we bring to you includes providing design flexibility with extensive polymer science expertise, joint development programs, and route to market alignment. We offer fast development capabilities with access to our experienced custom solution teams, enabling end-to-end development supported by dedicated program management, resulting in unique turnkey solutions for extraordinary outcomes. We have research and development and manufacturing facilities located at both our corporate headquarters in Glenrock, Pennsylvania, and also in Limerick, Ireland, as well as converting capabilities in Glenrock. And we also have offices based in Shanghai, China. As well as skin adhesives and device adhesives for wearable devices, we provide other skin-friendly adhesives such as short-term wear adhesives and long-term wear adhesives. We offer hydrophilic adhesive and coatings for diagnostic and microfluidic device applications. We offer cover tapes to enable secure seals, and we offer spacer tapes with tight thickness tolerances for use in diagnostic applications. Thank you for your interest and attention. If you would like any further information or you would like to discuss your application requirements with us, we would love to hear from you. The contact details are outlined in this slide. Thank you again for your attention. Now we'll move on to the Q&A session. I welcome any questions you may have, and you can submit your questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen.
Fiona, is it cheating if I ask you a question while we're waiting on questions to come through?
Sure do, Hannah. Yeah, please do.
I mean, I know we see a huge variety of requests for different types of bonding. Is there anything that comes to mind for you recently that's been, a top of mind challenge that you've been working on for a customer, or is there anything that you might add since the comments that you provided today?
Yeah, and I think one of the main areas of focus for us at the moment is kind of extending that wear time for the long-term wear adhesive up to like a 30-day wear time. So that's a big focus for us at the moment, and it's something that we see and think that the market is kind of requiring.
I agree. We see that here in the States as well. I think as sensor and battery life have started to reach those longer lifetimes, the adhesive is being asked to catch up. So I agree, that's definitely something our customers are exploring here too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the future as well, kind of there's a lot of focus on basically wearables for kind of healthcare monitoring going forward. And I think it's going to be more and more of a feature. I think more people are getting more and more interested in kind of getting data and analytics for all different types of information as much as possible.
Agreed. I think the comments you provided on biocompatibility and the fear of or concern around allergic reaction are really, really important, especially when you look at those extended wear times.
Absolutely. As you mentioned as well in the presentation, kind of having the focus on the processes and, the correct materials and reducing those residuals to try and ensure that we can have a good product that's not going to cause any of those irritation issues that may be possible. Okay, so we have an open question here, which I'll just address. So the question here is, you mentioned AR's capabilities in custom development. How does this case actually work, and why is this so successful for you? So the way this works is basically when our customers come to us with kind of an unmet media need, that we're going to sit there, we will meet. First of all, the first set of approach would be to discuss it with the salespeople, and then they'll assess the opportunity. And if it goes further, then we'll kind of engage in them in innovation, and we'll gather kind of all their different criteria and their different development, and we'll kind of go through and look for their particular requirements. We kind of move on then and kind of have a larger team kind of get involved, and with regular kind of questions and meetings with the customer, that's how we feel it's so successful for us.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Fiona, that it's a very dynamic process. There's a lot of engagement from multiple teams. There's a lot of access to our technical teams and our PhDs providing real-time feedback. So it really is a very collaborative process.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we've addressed this question as well. There's another question there: how long can your long-term wear adhesives be worn for? So currently they can definitely last for 14 days. And as I say, we're kind of having some good success developing to last up to 30-day wear time.
Is there anything that you can address, Fiona, about repositionable adhesive?
Yeah, absolutely. Our software adhesive technology is quite good for repositionable adhesives. That allows the patient, or for patient monitoring or for anything like that, that the software technology could be applied to the skin, and then it can be removed and repositioned. And the cases as well where, we've got instances where maybe it may not have been applied quite perfectly, somebody can take it off and reapply it then. So another question here has just come in. Do you provide electrically conductive skin adhesives, and what are the typical applications? So yes, we certainly do provide electrically conductive skin adhesives, which are formulated for transmitting current through the layers of the device and performing electrical interconnections and for bonding electrical components. So we can work with you to customize a conductive adhesive to meet your requirements by modifying the adhesive chemistries, the fillers, the forms, and the thicknesses to meet your specific needs. So the typical applications, I think we'll kind of look at that maybe for use in defibrillators and different typical applications, and for anywhere basically where electrical conductivity is required. Do you want to take this one, Hannah, on the...
Sure. The question is about where to purchase our products. So those can all be accessed through either myself and, sorry, a little feedback there, in Glenrock, Pennsylvania. You can reach out to us on our contact slide there. We typically don't work through distributors. You can buy them directly through us.
So another question here is saying, are there kind of substrates which are printable? And the answer is yes, we certainly have substrates which we can provide that are printable. And if you have a particular substrate that you have in mind, let us know and we can see and try and find a printable solution for you.
Yeah, I think, Fiona, we see more requests for that type of substrate here lately. I think there's a lot of interesting applications being worked on for temperature sensors and for sort of wearables that give it some type of reading. And that's where we've seen that request coming from. I think one thing I can mention is that, we really do rely on a sort of base of products from which to guide customers to trial different types of material. But very often with medical devices, especially skin attached, we're going into customization fairly early in the process. So we that intake process and understanding what our customers are looking for is really critical, but we quickly guide them into a unique construction using really whatever the materials are they require. And we can do that very quickly.
We have another question here saying that you understand the coat thickness has an effect on MVTR. Are there any other properties of the coat thickness that can affect the MVTR? So yeah, certainly you can address it. Certainly there are other factors. One of those factors which you can mention are even the chemistry of the adhesives. Say, for example, the difference between an acrylic adhesive and a silicone adhesive. The acrylic adhesives are typically more breathable and allow for a higher MVTR rate than the silicone adhesive. Okay, we have another one here, which will address. So how different are the silicone adhesives with respect to the acrylic adhesives in terms of performance on sensitive skin? So here, typically what we do find in terms, like the silicone adhesives, with the soft kind of have a soft gel-like feel. So they are very, very good in terms of for bonding to the sensitive skin, and they're always a good option. One area where you may be more inclined to use an acrylic adhesive is when maybe there may be a requirement for gamma sterilization, and in that instance we would use the acrylic adhesives. Now our software adhesive technology is also designed to be quite gentle and atraumatic to the skin, so it's also quite suitable for sensitive skin as well.
I'll take that next question, Fiona.
Okay.
Our next question is about our converting capabilities and what our value is that we bring to customers in that space. So I'll share that we do have medical converting in Glenrock. I think the number one value we bring, in addition to having a true expert in that field and on our team, we really have the ability to work very fluidly with the converting process. We get real-time feedback from operators about how the construction is performing under the conditions that were outlined for the final, finished part. And often that feedback results in minor adjustments or changes that can be made to the formulation even, or the substrate selection, very small things that we can address immediately in development instead of what is usually a much longer back and forth process between an adhesive supplier and an outside converter.
Okay, so there's another question here saying, what's the maximum weight of the wearable device that your adhesives can hold on to? So just to address that there, currently, the way we see the market trends going, actually the weight of the devices are typically going down and the devices are getting even smaller and smaller. So I don't have any predefined weight, and maybe I can look into that further and try and get back to you for what exactly what level we have got up to that they could withstand. But typically we are seeing more of a trend for more and more devices to get smaller and smaller and lighter rather than heavier. But in looking at that, like if we do have a requirement for bonding a device that is particularly heavy, what we will do is we will look at and focus at providing an adhesive of very high shear strength. So that improves that performance the higher and higher that the weight bearing requirements are.
Should we ask for any final questions to come through?
Mhm. Yep, there's just one here now that came through, Hannah. Can your adhesives withstand ethylene oxide sterilization? And yes, we have several different options available for withstanding ethylene oxide sterilization. We have kind of both, in this instance, both silicone and acrylic options.
We may have exhausted our curiosity from our audience today.
Yes, yes, it looks like it, Hannah. I think if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you all again for your interest and attention. And you know, as time goes by, if there's any more questions that come up and come to mind, or if you want to discuss your requirements with us further, just please reach out to us using the contact information that's displayed on your screen. Okay.